Hello, my name is Maverick Brendley, and my presentation is on the Battle of Britain during World War II. Before we delve into the fighting, technology, or the outcome, we first must know what led up to the battle. First of all, I must start with the Dunkirk evacuation. After the Germans were successfully able to capture France, there needed to be a full-scale evacuation of all the British troops stationed in France to the beaches of Dunkirk. This evacuation led to 350,000 British troops being brought back to England. After this, it truly showed how alone the British were fighting against the Germans. This is why it was of the utmost importance that this battle was to be won by the British, as they were the Germans' only true enemies. Because at this point, the USA hadn't joined the war, and the Hitler-Stalin non-aggression agreement was still intact. Then finally, only a few days after the defeat of France on June 18, 1940, Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, uttered the lines, "The Battle of France is over. I expect the Battle of Britain is about to begin," which is where the name of the battle initially comes from. Now moving on to the main course of the battle between the Royal Air Force British and the Luftwaffe German. The intent of the battle was for the Germans to gain air superiority over the British to make way for a land attack. The battle begins on July 10th when the Germans begin to attack British ports and convoy within the English Channel. Though inevitably, on August 13th, began to bomb airfields and radar stations. This string of attacks was called the Eagle Attack. Throughout the entire battle, the British had caused more aerial casualties than they had taken themselves. This was due to their highly advanced radar systems. The British had the most advanced radar systems in the world during this time. This completely took away the element of surprise from the Germans, as the British could always follow their every move the second they entered the English Channel. It was advantageous for the Germans to bomb the radar stations, allowing them to enter Britain undetected, though Hitler's pride got in the way of his decision-making. German pitfalls. The major mistake that the Germans made was to change from attacking radar stations and airstrips to attacking civilian cities. This allowed the RAF to fully function and allowed these stations to be preserved and fully functional. The reason for this switch was because only after a few German bombs landed on London, the British retaliated by sending a fleet of planes to bomb Berlin on September 5th. This made Hitler furious and ordered that civilian cities of Britain be attacked. This was one of many of Hitler's greatest mistakes that eventually led to the German downfall in this battle and eventually the whole war. Now that the civilian cities were being attacked, instead of the airfield and radar stations, the RAF was able to knock out Luftwaffe planes faster than German industry could produce them. This led to Hitler, on September 15th, to permanently postpone the ground invasion of Britain, after realizing they could not gain air superiority over the British. Even though air raids over London continued for the rest of the war, this is when the Battle of Britain finally came to a conclusion with the British victory. The image below is showing the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, visible through the smoke left from German incendiary bombs. This British victory was the turning point in the war in favor of the Allies. It kept Britain safe from a German ground attack, but also for many more long-term things as well. It stopped the Germans on the Western Front, and it kept the Germans fighting a two-front war. As well, this victory allowed later in the war a place for the USA to have a starting point when going into Europe to fight the Germans. The US dumped so many trucks, guns, and soldiers onto Britain that many during this time joked that the island would flip from all the American war supplies. Nonetheless, the American support in Britain made way for D-Day and the eventual reclamation of Western Europe. The casualties of the battle were great on each side due to the length and intensity of the battle. It is hard to know exactly how many casualties were caused on each side due to the governments downplaying their losses to keep their morale high in the people. Although it is estimated that on the British side there were roughly 1,000 fallen aircrafts, and on the German side there was roughly 1,800 fallen aircrafts. In the words of Winston Churchill, never was so much owed by so many to so few. These few simple words perfectly sum up the outcome of the Battle of Britain. This is my works cited page. The two articles from JSTOR are the two primary sources, one being a newspaper from 1945 about the British radar systems, and the other was a speech from Winston Churchill. Thank you for listening to my presentation.